Sometimes the meeting room of a church building will be used for more things than simply housing those who are worshiping God. Upon occasion, it will be decorated and friends and family will be invited in to celebrate the union of a man and woman as husband and wife. They'll anxiously sit on the edge of their seats, awaiting the grand entrance of the bride and her walk down the aisle.
Christ we do all adore.
As she walks past, there will be some who take pictures of her, others who are smiling at her, and then some who even whisper about how beautiful she is. But did you realize that as she walks down this aisle and walks past each and every one of them, that her relationship with them is changing as she goes by? Now, the first pew that she's going to walk past will be the pew where those past flames might be sitting. Now, while not all boyfriend and girlfriend relationships end amicably, some do. And even though these people are sitting in the back of the room, they may also still be in the back of that person's mind. Many a marriage has been ruined because of a rekindled relationship. One must always remember that when it comes to marriage, there's affection that is reserved for marriage only. Notice what direction Paul writes to older women in Titus chapter 2 and verse 4 as far as what they are to teach. They are to teach or admonish the young women to love their husbands, to love their children. The idea there behind teaching them to love their husbands actually refers to affection. So we must always remember that we need to, just as she does, put anything that could be a stumbling block to that behind us. The second pew that she will pass will be the pew where her friends are seated. Now, it's not that she's completely leaving her friends behind, but as she passes by them, realize her relationship now is going to have some limits as to the information that she shares with them. The same thing is true for us as well. Wives, your friends are not the place to go for you to complain about your husband. Likewise, husbands, realize that when it comes to being close to your wife as opposed to your buddies, there's a certain amount of direction given as well. Look at what Peter writes in 1 Peter chapter 3 and verse 7. Husbands, likewise, dwell with them with understanding, giving honor to the wife as to the weaker vessel, and as being heirs together of the grace of life, that your prayers may not be hindered. Husbands, you need to understand your wives. Now, stop cracking jokes about that and saying you can't understand women. You know what that means. It means that you need to be with her and that you need to do your best to understand her. Likewise, wives, you must realize that you need to respect your husbands, as Paul commands in Ephesians chapter 5 and verse 33, and show that respect even in front of your friends. Finally, the last pew that she is going to pass will be the pew where her parents are seated. Now, this will be the most difficult relationship change of all for both parties. But I want you to notice with me what God's original intention for marriage was, even from the beginning. In Genesis chapter 2 and verse 24, we read, "Therefore a man shall leave his father and mother, and be joined to his wife, and they shall become one flesh." Realize this, that parents are to be left. Now, it don't mean completely abandoned, but the point is this, that you cannot allow your parents to stand between you and your spouse. You can't allow them to butt in between you and your spouse. You can't invite them in to be between you and your spouse. You see, God's idea for marriage was this, that two individuals, a husband and wife, would leave their parents and cling to one another, cleave to one another, to become as one. And if they're as one, then no one can separate them. So when it comes to marriage and leaving parents, realize that home is now with your husband or with your wife. That's a vital thing to remember for any marriage that's going to be successful. Remember, though, that when she comes back down the aisle, she's not coming back down the aisle alone. If you're married or if you're going to be married, cleave to your spouse, hold tight to them, become as one. but also remember to invite God into your marriage as well. The psalmist wrote in Psalm 127, "Unless the Lord builds the house, they labor in vain who build it."
My sweet Ruah,